INFJ, you're not imagining it. Your struggles really are different. Deeper, sharper. Invisible to most, yet felt by you like waves crashing endlessly in your chest. You've walked through life wearing a silent armor of empathy, intuition, and vision, and even though people often admire your insight or your calmness, they have no idea the cost it takes to carry the invisible weight you bear daily. This video is a hand reaching out to say, I see you. So if you've ever felt broken in places no one else seems to notice, if you've ever wondered why life feels heavier for you than for others, this is for you. Let's begin. 1. They feel the world too deeply. You don't just experience life, INFJ. You absorb it. The moment you step into a room, you can feel its emotional temperature. You know if someone's hiding pain. You notice the tremble in their smile, the sigh behind their eyes, the energy they're trying to suppress. And while others may simply nod and carry on, you carry the pain home with you. You dissect it in the quiet hours of the night. You cry for people who don't even cry for themselves. This depth of emotional sensitivity is your gift and your wound. Because in a world that numbs itself with distractions, quick answers, and superficiality, you, INFJ, remain wide open. You feel what others fear. You hold space for what they ignore. And this constant emotional attunement is exhausting. It's not just overstimulation. It's like being wired into every soul you pass. And over time, it bleeds you dry. 2. They carry the emotions of everyone else. Imagine being a lighthouse, guiding others through storms you never caused, shining even when your oil runs low. That's what it feels like to be an INFJ empath. You carry the guilt of others. Their grief. Their shame. You make space for people to collapse emotionally because you know they won't find that space anywhere else. But what happens when your own emotional backpack is already overflowing? You end up carrying burdens that aren't yours, simply because you can. And here's the brutal irony. Many of those same people you hold up never stop to ask what you're carrying. They see your calmness and assume you're fine. They hear your thoughtful advice and think you have it all figured out. But inside, you're quietly breaking. And the worst part? You've conditioned yourself to hide it, because you don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. 3. They're trapped between vision and reality. You see things others don't. Not just emotionally, but intuitively. You sense potential. You imagine better futures. You can almost taste the version of the world you know is possible. But what happens when no one else sees it? You feel like a prophet among the blind. Your dreams feel too idealistic, too unrealistic, for the pragmatic world. People tell you to just accept things as they are. But INFJ, that's like telling a painter to stop seeing color. You were born to imagine more. But because of this, you often feel isolated, as if your very nature contradicts the environment you're expected to thrive in. You live in the tension between what is and what could be. And that constant inner dissonance? It's not just frustrating, it's soul-wrenching. 4. They can't unsee what others ignore. Once you see beneath the surface, you can't go back. You notice when someone says, I'm fine, but their tone tightens. You spot manipulation wrapped in charm. You detect hypocrisy hiding behind polished smiles. And while others float through life in blissful ignorance, you're painfully aware of hidden motives, unspoken wounds, and false narratives. This perceptiveness becomes a curse when you realize most people don't want to see. They don't want to be confronted with what's real. So you stay quiet. You nod politely. You shrink yourself to fit into spaces that ask you to forget what your soul already knows. But inside, it eats at you. Because truth matters to you. Even when it hurts. 5. They sacrifice themselves for peace. You've always been the peacemaker. You'd rather suffer in silence than create conflict. You'd rather let something slide than escalate tension. You walk on eggshells not because you're weak, but because you care too much about keeping the atmosphere gentle. But this self-sacrifice often leads to deep resentment. Because while you work tirelessly to maintain peace, others take it for granted. They assume your tolerance is infinite. That your silence equals agreement. And over time, you begin to lose pieces of yourself in the name of harmony. You bury your opinions. You ignore your needs. You become a shell of who you were, just to make everyone else comfortable. But INFJ, peace that costs your soul is not peace at all. 6. They're constantly misunderstood. You speak with metaphors. You think in layers. You process life through a kaleidoscope of emotion, intuition, and reflection. But most people? They want simple, literal, clear-cut. So when you try to explain how you feel, it gets lost in translation. You're too intense for some. Too deep. Too quiet. Too much, and yet, somehow not enough in the ways they expect. It feels like you're always translating your soul into a language no one speaks. And the result? You withdraw. You stop explaining. You retreat to the inner world where you feel most at home, because out here, you're a puzzle no one's willing to solve. 7. They struggle with boundaries. You want to help. You want to be there. You want to show up in ways others never showed up for you. But INFJ, your empathy makes it hard to say, no. You feel guilty for setting boundaries. You worry they'll think you're cold. You fear disappointing them, even when saying, yes, means betraying yourself. And this is how you end up drained, overcommitted, and secretly resenting the very people you're trying to help. You give, until there's nothing left. And then you beat yourself up for feeling empty. But INFJ, you were never meant to be a martyr. You deserve the same care you so freely give others. 8. They're haunted by existential loneliness. Even when surrounded by people, you feel alone. It's not about physical isolation. It's existential. You feel like no one truly gets you. You crave connection that's real, raw, and soulful. But most relationships hover on the surface, and that's like feeding your soul dust. You long for someone who asks the real questions. Who doesn't flinch when you talk about your fears? Who doesn't get uncomfortable when you cry over the state of the world? This loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about being unseen in the very spaces where you're expected to feel connected. And it creates this aching void that words can't fill. 9. They battle internal perfectionism. You hold yourself to impossible standards. Not because you want to be better than others, but because you never want to let anyone down. You replay conversations. You overthink decisions. You criticize yourself for flaws that no one else notices. And even when you succeed, you wonder if it was enough. You wonder if you are enough. This relentless pursuit of inner perfection becomes a prison. Because no matter how much you achieve, your mind whispers, you could have done more. INFJ, your heart is already more than enough. You don't have to earn your worth. 10. They're forced to live in a loud, fast world. You thrive in quiet. In reflection. In spaces that allow your soul to breathe. But the world is loud. Quick. Unforgiving. It rewards speed over depth, noise over nuance, visibility over authenticity. And you often feel like a fish out of water. Every day, you're forced to perform, to adapt, to survive in an environment that feels fundamentally opposed to your nature. It's not just tiring, it's disorienting. Because deep down, you know you weren't made for this pace. You were made for meaning. INFJ, you've struggled more than others. Not because you're weak, but because you feel more, see more, love more, hope more. You've spent your life holding space for others, even when no one held space for you. But please remember this. Your struggles are not signs of failure. They're signs of depth. You weren't made to fit into the world. You were made to transform it. Softly, quietly, powerfully. And while it may feel like no one understands your pain, there's a world of souls out there, just like you, who are starting to wake up. So hold on. Your sensitivity is not a curse. It's your superpower. Keep being you.